Hi there. Just a short video today on the topic of acceptance, but before we launch into that, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping or commentary on my previous video that was about habits. Even though that one was a little bit longer than the standard videos I've posted in the series, I didn't feel particularly happy about the breadth of what I addressed in that video, and I will do a follow-up video on that in the near future. Getting to today's topic, the topic of acceptance, I think the way acceptance relates to the idea of resilience is that one aligns oneself with reality. So very often when one mentions the topic of acceptance, there is a clamor of voices that indicate how they are not willing to approve of something or to submit to something, and that therefore their resistance to reality on that front is perfectly justified. Far be it for me to suggest that you shouldn't resist, but I will make my case and you can decide for yourself whether or not it is useful to keep the resistant position that you have, or if it might be useful for you to adapt in some way. All right, so the basic idea around acceptance that I want to suggest is that acceptance means to see, hear, and feel, to take note of reality as it is, rather than in some way suggesting that reality is wrong and that it needs fixing. Now, acceptance does not imply that you feel good about the current situation, and I'll give you a small example that I also give in my little booklet, that you're welcome to go find on Amazon. If you just type in my name and acceptance, I'm sure you will find it. I don't know if it's particularly important or worthwhile, but it's up to you to decide if you want to think more, read more about the notion of acceptance. But the little example I use is that let's say you have a child, you love very much, a young child, an infant perhaps, and one morning after you've made your bed and your linen is lovely and smooth and clean, you put your child on the bed while you're going about your morning routine, and let's say that child becomes ill and he or she throws up on this lovely bedspread of yours. Now, I don't think there are many people who would want to sort of feel good about something like that. So it's not about the good feeling. It is about the notion that suddenly, in an instant, reality asserted itself in a particular way, and it's now up to you to respond to that. Now, you can respond to that by, I don't know, chastising the child, shouting, hitting, punishing the child, which all seem particularly unhelpful. Or you can sort of say, okay, so I need to clean up the bed. Can't sleep, can't leave it like this, can't sleep like this. But perhaps you need to take care of the child first. So there's a sense of priority. Perhaps the child is sick. Perhaps he or she just overate or had some kind of reaction to what they ate that morning. So there's an immediate reprioritization of how you're going to spend the next few minutes or maybe even hours, depending on the gravity of the situation. But you are responding to the way reality asserts itself without sort of having any kind of internal conflict about whether this is right or wrong. You are taking reality for what it is and you are responding to it as such. And that's the basic notion. So in therapy, one of the basic assumptions really is that if one works with a patient, you are more likely than not to meet their resistances. And it's the working through of these resistances that is very often a vital first step, and sometimes even all that's necessary, the last step then, for things to start shifting and changing. It is painful for us to accept aspects of reality that we find difficult or that seems intimately bound up with our sense of suffering or struggle, and yet reality is larger than we are. We live in reality, it's not the other way around. I realize, of course, that there are many people who suggest that we can, with our attitude, adjust reality. Well, no, we can perceive reality in different ways. That is true. But reality itself is much more complex and broader than just our perception of it. And in essence, practicing acceptance means to change your perception of reality. So moving from your inner sense of how things should be to a careful and appropriate attempt at perceiving reality for what it is. Now, the idea here is that if you remove your resistance to reality through some form of acceptance, you will have more energy available to you to respond to the demands of reality as it has asserted itself or as it has become manifest in this moment. Just one note, when I use the word manifest, I realized that there are many books and videos and such speaking about the power of manifestation and the law of attraction and so on. I'm certainly not speaking of whether, I don't know if those things are true or not. They may be, but this is not the way I use the word manifest. I merely mean that manifest in the sense of reality has made something material right here, right now. Of course, our attitudes can affect the way that we either perceive manifest reality or pull us in different directions, but I'm speaking of the very basic form of reality asserting itself. Anyway, so once that inner resistance is out of the way, you can then utilize your energies to make use of your own potential, your own resources, to move from where you are now in terms of reality to where you need to be. Using the example of the sick infant again, you immediately check the infant, check for fever, notice if there's anything else that seems to be amiss or the matter. Start putting things together. Maybe they've been touching their ear and there's an ear infection, or that they were particularly sort of quick to finish their food or their bottle of milk that morning, and you sort of summarize that no, they're going to be okay, and you're going to just watch them a little bit more carefully. Or if you notice anything else, you take the appropriate actions. So that becomes the springboard for the next thing that you do. Acceptance of reality in this sense then also allows you to develop a more clear focus on what is necessary in the next period of time. All right, so how does one get to acceptance? Well, you at least think about the concept. Maybe you debate the idea of acceptance with yourself. Maybe you discuss it with friends, family, people who you trust, whose opinions you trust. The way I describe it in that little booklet is essentially, I'm not going to re-describe the steps here because it will just take too long. But essentially it means that you access a state of acceptance in another context, and you maintain that state, bringing it to bear upon the current moment or aspect of reality that you find difficult to accept. All right. I hope that you found this useful, that you can get to a greater sense of acceptance in order to align yourself with reality, to pursue your best interests and the interests of those people that you care for. I hope you are healthy and happy. If you are satisfied that this video provides you with important ideas or techniques or suggestions, please consider subscribing and or consider sharing this video with other people who might find the information contained in this valuable. Thank you for your time. I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.